So I thought it'd be fun to do something I haven't done yet, which is rank my top 10 favourite movies of all time. Haven't done it on the channel yet. I think number one may not be a surprise to anybody who's been watching videos up to this point. But it seemed like a good time to do it. The subscriber count's going up, so if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Come join the chat in the comments. But yeah, this seemed like the right time to do it. So this is my top 10 favourite movies of all time.
Put the bunny back in the box.
A quick disclaimer before I start this. When I say my top 10 favourite movies, I don't mean movies that I think are technically the best films ever made of all time. I mean, there are occasions where those two things interlink, but these are more just films that, for whatever reason, sometimes I don't even think they're particularly great films, but for me, they resonate with me. They're films that I can go back and watch again and again and again and never tire of, and always find something new in them that I enjoy. So this is, just a personal list of my favourite films. And do let me know yours in the comments as well. Let me know what films you enjoy. I always enjoy talking films in the comments, so let's keep that up. Let me know. But let's kick this off then at number 10 with Spider-Man 2. A few years before the MCU was even a thing, Spider-Man 2 came along and really got me into superhero movies. It did. This is the film that did it. I was familiar with them beforehand. There were films that I liked, obviously X-Men, the first Spider-Man, Superman. I've always had a soft spot for superhero movies, but this was the first one that really made me take notice of them. And it's down to just what an incredible film this is. It's still, to this day, my favourite superhero movie. It is, and I love what the MCU's done. I love some of what he's done as well recently. Like Shazam looks like it's going to be good. I enjoyed Wonder Woman. But nothing yet has come close to me when it comes to comic book movies, when it comes to superhero movies, as Spider-Man 2. Doc Ock is still one of my favourite villains that a comic book movie's ever had. This was Tobey Maguire, I think, his best performance. Certainly his best performance as Spider-Man. Still annoyed at Spider-Man 3 coming along and ruining everything. But yeah, this is a film for me that whenever I watch it, I fall in love with it all over again. I think it's perfectly cast. I think it's perfectly written. Sam Raimi did an excellent job at this. Yeah, I look forward to the day when a movie comes along and knocks this one out of my first place choice for superhero films, but it's going to be a hard job for it to do because I absolutely love this. Number 9 is Toy Story. Pixar for me of late have been a bit more up and down than they used to be. I think early Pixar is still the strongest, but I've had a bit of an issue with the sequels that they've been doing of late. I think Toy Story 2 and 3 are also incredible films. I was tempted to just group all three of them together and say the Toy Story trilogy, but that'd be cheating. But yeah, Monsters University, Finding Dory, there's been, say, about an equal amount of misses in the Cars films than there has hits. And still in my mind, the best Pixar movie to date, and the best Disney movie to date, is Toy Story. I was a massive Toy Story fan as a kid, like huge Toy Story fan, and Buzz and Woody are still two of the characters I think that I love more than most other characters in film. The script is still as fresh and funny as it was way back when it came out. It's still like that today, and it's still a film that no matter how many times I see it, I continue to get something new out of it. I continue to spot something that I missed before, and it continues to connect with me as well. I remember all the toys I had as a kid. I remember imagining that they were real, and that came about because of Toy Story. Toy Story did just spark something in my imagination the first time I watched it, and it's still there when I watch it today. As I say, all three films are great. I don't want a Toy Story 4, but all three Toy Story films are incredible. But for me, the first one just about... And maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it is. There's a few films on this list that I think wouldn't be quite as high if it wasn't for nostalgia. But yeah, Toy Story for me is still the best of the bunch, still the best Pixar movie, and easily my 9th best film of all time. And number 8 is Terminator 2 Judgement Day. I saw this, I think it was last year, when it was re-released at the cinema. It's been redone in 4K. I don't have the 4K Blu-ray yet. I do have the original one. I don't know why. I haven't got that. Should have got that when it came out. Poor form, me. But yeah, this is without question the best Terminator movie, and while it sucks that the future Terminator films haven't come close to living up to the greatness of Terminator 2, I think Terminator 3 is underrated. I particularly like the ending, but it's nowhere near as good. I think it's because Terminator 1 and 2 probably told all the story that was needed to tell with Terminator. This is an epic film in every single possible way. The cast are incredible here. Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was, in my mind, the film that's got me to love Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, I was familiar with him before this one, but this was the one where he just became an actor that I wanted to see. I wanted to see everything that he did because he's so good as the good version of the Terminator. He was great as the bad one as well, but there was just something about his performance here that just really, really clicked with me. And especially with the remaster that they've done, this film looks like it was made today. Like, the effects still 100% hold up. It's still a film that every single time I watch it, I just fall in love with it that little bit more. Robert Patrick, John Doggett from The X-Files, is an incredible villain. He's a good foil for Arnold Schwarzenegger here, and there's literally nothing in this film that I can fault. There's no problems that I have with it. The action sequences remain as exciting as they've ever been. Just a brilliant film, and kind of, for me, a reason why they should stop trying to make Terminator movies. Like, they've done it. They did 2 incredible ones. They did one that's one of the best films of all time. We don't need to keep going on with this franchise. We can be happy with what we've had. And yeah, Terminator 2 for me, my problem with making new Terminator movies is that I don't see any way that a Terminator film can be better than Judgment Day. I really don't. And number 7 is Armageddon. Now, I've done a video quite recently on Armageddon for the channel as part of Movies at 20. I look back at movies that are 20 years old. Armageddon was one of the latest ones that I've done, so it was a little while ago. So do go back and watch that to see more of my thoughts on it. But yes, I am aware that Armageddon is not a particularly great film. I understand that. I get that it's not. And part of the problem with it stems from its actual premise, which is ridiculous, which makes no sense and is completely illogical. And so much of this film is dumb and illogical. So much of it makes no sense at all. But it really doesn't matter to me because I love every single second of Armageddon. Sometimes with a film, I just want to go along for an entertaining ride and just have fun with it. And my God, there is so much fun to be had here. The characters, while maybe not the most realistic, are all fun. Every single one of them. All of this crew that go up into space. I like every single one of them. There's some amazing one-liners. The action is still phenomenal. Like, this film looks great. It's certainly Michael Bay's best film. And it gets me on an emotional level as well. And it surprises me every single time that it does. Because when I watch this and we get to the end and we get to the scene with Gracie and the hand on the... just floors me. Floors me every time. But yeah, if you want to see more of my thoughts on Armageddon, do go watch that video. It's on the channel. It wasn't posted that long ago. It should be easy to find. But yeah, this is an example of, while I don't think a film is sort of technically a great one, it could still be one of my favourites. Armageddon, yeah, prime example of that. At number 6 is Die Hard. Now, I don't care what Bruce Willis says. Don't care at all. He said recently that Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. Well, screw you, Bruce Willis, because it is a Christmas film. I watch this every single Christmas without fail, along with Jingle All the Way for some reason. And I don't even particularly like Jingle All the Way, so I don't know why that's become a tradition for me. It's weird, but I do know why Die Hard has, and that's because it is one of the best action films ever made, hands down. This was a role that Bruce Willis was made to play for. This is like his purpose was to come in and play John McClane for a couple of movies, not as many as he has. And in fact, that's my only criticism with Die Hard, is that the franchise is still going, and it's so bad now. The 5th one was an abomination. It was an insult to the first Die Hard. And Die Hard 2 and 3, for me, are good films. I'd have been happy if it stopped at 3, but the first Die Hard is so good, it's so perfect, that even if it had just been this one film, I still think it would be remembered just as fondly as it is today. There's a reason why in Best Action Movies list, 9 times out of 10 you'll see Die Hard up there, and it's because it's cinematic perfection. The one-liners in this, the action in this, say Bruce Willis is fantastic. Alan Rickman gives one of the best villainous performances ever in a film. He's incredible in this. And it's, again, I keep saying it's one of those films that you can keep going back to and keep finding new things, and 100% it is, and it doesn't get boring in the slightest. Absolutely love Die Hard, always will. At number 5 is Jurassic Park. Now, as a quick side note, I gave Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom a fairly positive review when I reviewed it earlier this year. I've seen it again since, and my opinion on it's changed quite a bit. I don't like that film anymore. It's a time where I've done a review and I regret the score that I give, and I'm going to go into that more towards the end of the year when I kind of do a 2018 recap and get into more of the thoughts, but I just wanted to address that because the reason my opinion on it has changed so much is because afterwards I watched Jurassic Park, and I remembered just what a perfect movie this is, because it's a movie full of wonder. I mean, look at the moment where Alan Grant first sees those dinosaurs, the wide-eyed just excitement and shock at seeing them. This wasn't a film built around action sequences. This wasn't an action movie at all, really. It had action moments in it, but it was far more a character study. It was far more getting to know who these people are. what their viewpoints are. You've got John Hammond, and he's playing God essentially to a whole race, and he's doing some questionable things, but he fundamentally believes that what he's doing is the right thing, that he's doing something that can bring joy to people. You've got Jeff Goldblum's character coming in saying we shouldn't be doing this, and it's, to be fair to him, it's kind of a mantra that he's stuck with as the films have gone on. But it wasn't about dinosaurs causing carnage. It was about what would happen if we were to actually be able to bring dinosaurs back, and it looks at that in a thoughtful way. And when the action moments, when they come along, they're so much more effective because they're not all that frequent. So the T-Rex on the bridge moment is one of the best moments in cinema, as is the Velociraptors in the kitchen. It's a tense moment, but it's not full-on spectacle, and it's not going for that. Speaking of spectacle, though, the effects still look good because of how they were done. Like, this wasn't really CGI, this was practical effects, and the movie works so much better as a result of it. I think they tried to do that again with Fallen Kingdom, but it didn't quite work as well. But yeah, Jurassic Park is just one of those films that will always be a classic, and deservedly so. I love it, absolutely love it. And just as another quick aside, I also quite enjoy Lost World. I know a lot of people hate that film, but kind of an apologist for it. Quite like it. At number 4 is The Shawshank Redemption. Now, it's interesting to look back. Well, I say look back, I don't remember it, but it's interesting to read up on what happened with The Shawshank Redemption when it came out, because, and I forget now, it was either it wasn't overly well received or it was a flop. I think it was a flop. But it didn't do a lot of money, so the fact that it's gone on to become sort of, I think most people tend to think that this is one of the best films ever. It's certainly up on a lot of lists. My God, does it deserve to be? What I think strikes me the most about this is that this is a long film. The Shawshank Redemption does go on, but every single second counts. It doesn't feel like there's any padding to this script at all, because it's slow, it's methodical, it takes its time to tell its story, and it goes in different directions, and it brings new characters in, and we say goodbye to characters, and it really does feel like it's spanning a very large portion of Andy Dufresne's life, Andy Dufresne and Red. And the chemistry between them is what makes this film, I think, so memorable, because they're both such good characters. They're both, I'd say, not over-the-top characters. You could very well see that these are real people in a real horrible situation. And Shawshank doesn't try to shy away from the hideousness of prison. Like, it doesn't feel like it glamorizes it at all. We see some pretty brutal things here, some pretty horrible moments. But it's never done, it doesn't ever feel like it's just done for the sake of it. Every single thing that happens here feels like it happens for a reason. And when we get to the end, when we get to Andy's eventual escape, the twist, the reveal is, I'll always remember the first time I saw it and just being awestruck at it. It's one of those moments in film that I will never ever forget, just seeing that poster come off the wall for the first time and seeing the hole and him literally crawling through shit and screaming up into the air at the rain. Just incredible. I could watch this film sort of once and then I could watch it again straight after. It's that good. And for a long film, for a film that isn't short on running time, to be able to want to do that just speaks to how much quality the film has. Like, The Shawshank Redemption is, easily one of my favourite films of all time. If you've not seen it, there was somebody who I knew who hadn't seen it, and they went and watched it for the first time, and they instantly fell in love with it. So if you haven't watched it, please do, because it's one of those movies that if you love film, you 100% have to see. And number 3 is Donnie Darko. Now, Donnie Darko is an interesting one because I've seen it many, many, many times and I still don't quite understand what the hell's going on. But the beauty of the film for me is that I don't care. I don't really care. I have a gist of it. Like, the more I've seen it and the more I've read up on it and sort of read theories about it, I've come to understand it a bit more. But there's still moments where I'm like, I don't get that. But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect my enjoyment of it because this is a film that, for some reason, just grabs a hold of me whenever I see it. I think it's a combination of things. For one, the music in this film is just used exquisitely well. It's used perfectly. And it's combined a lot of the times with some interesting styles for the directions for the film, because it goes into slow motion sequences, and those slow motion moments are played with almost haunting music. And it just works for me perfectly. Frank the Rabbit creeps me out, and still does, but I find him fascinating. Whenever I see a picture of him, that's all I have to see to make me want to watch this film again, is just to see a picture of Frank. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance is one of his best. He's perfect as Donnie Darko, and as I say, it's just a weird film, but I love kind of getting lost in my own thoughts as I'm watching it, just trying to decipher what every little tiny moment means, because it's a film with a lot of style, it's a film with a lot of depth, but it's a story, and it's a film that I just want to learn every single detail about. Arrow Films just released a pretty impressive Blu-ray box set. It's been remastered to 4K, not HDR, but 4K at least. And there's a wealth of special features in there and documentaries that I've barely even scratched the surface of, but I can't wait to see them. And a weird little thing with this all kind of takes place around October the 30th, and the first time I watched this film was on October the 30th, so that kind of stood out to me a little bit when I watched it. That was a bit creepy. But yeah, this is just an example of a film that, while I don't fully understand it, doesn't affect my enjoyment of it, it doesn't affect my love of it. I could watch this film over and over again, and it will continue to fascinate me. At number 2, and this is the one that may get me a little bit of stick, is Titanic. Now, this is a film that I think may, as I said, play into nostalgia, because I distinctly remember the first time I watched Titanic. It's the first time in a cinema that I truly remember the whole way through. I remember it being an event. There was so much hype around Titanic, and when I went and saw it, I absolutely loved it, and it sparked a whole fascination with me with the actual real event, with the ship itself. I've watched so many documentaries and read so many things about Titanic that I think for a spell of a few months I just continually kept looking into as much things to do with Titanic as I possibly could, and that still comes along every now and then. I'll find myself watching a documentary I've seen 7 times, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why I love this film as much as I do. But for me, Titanic is one of those films where it seems to have become cool to hate on in recent years, and I don't really understand why, because it's a film that's done with a lot of care and a lot of good performances as well, and it's just a film of 2 halves. You have the romance story for the first half of it. You have Jack and Rose and sort of their sort of budding relationship between the two of them. They meet, they fall in love, they have got obstacles in the way. So you get that aspect of the film, which I kind of enjoy. I'm partial to a movie like that. And then the halfway mark, you get the sinking, you get the disaster, and it turns into an action movie. And the two things blend together absolutely seamlessly for me. James Horner, rest in peace, his score for this is hauntingly beautiful. It is. I could listen just to the Titanic. In fact, I have done. I'm fine with admitting it. I can just stick the Titanic soundtrack on and just listen to that. I still think that visually this film is incredible as well. Yeah, we know now that some of the details weren't quite right with the ship, but for the most part, this is such a beautiful reconstruction of the boat that it feels real. It feels like we're genuinely watching these people go through horrible, horrible things. And again, much like Shawshank, this is a film that goes on. It's a very long film. It's longer than Shawshank, I think. But it never feels it for me. It never feels like a long film. It tells its story at a pace that it's comfortable with, and it's a pace that I'm comfortable watching it at. And this also has just the one fleeting moment that always gets me, every single time, and that's the old people hugging on the bed as the water floods underneath them and you know they're about to drown. And my God, every time I see that, it gets me right here. Really does. So number 1, my number 1 choice for my favourite movie of all time, and as I say, if you've been watching my videos, it won't come as a surprise, it's Con Air. Now, Con Air, I think, is, without question, the best action film, the most fun movie I have ever seen. I remember the first time I watched this, and I liked films, I was like any other kid. I enjoyed watching movies, it was fine, it was a way to pass the time, but I never really had an obsession with them. I never really wanted to collect movies like I obviously have now. It started when I watched Con Air because I hadn't enjoyed watching something as much as this film. Because everything about it is perfect. And it all works because the script and director Simon West, they knew exactly the sort of film that they were making. It was a movie that was very silly. Very, very silly. Very over the top. Very unrealistic. Very stupid. But it embraces that. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. And I fully support movies that do that. It's what I hope from The Meg that I'm going to be watching on Friday. I hope it doesn't take itself seriously. And yeah, Con Air doesn't. Nicolas Cage has never been better. The Rock and Face Off as well. They're 2 other movies that very nearly made this list because I enjoy them all. This is the best non-trilogy of all time. Nicolas Cage's 90s action 3. But yeah, Con Air easily bests both of them because of not just him, the supporting cast. John Cusack is amazing. I think he said he just did it for the paycheck. Don't care, because he's great. Cole Meany is awesome as kind of the foil to Cusack. John Malkovich seems to be having a ball as Cyrus the Virus. Whether he was or not, I'm not sure, but he gives the impression that it does. And there's so many other supporting characters. Steve Buscemi, second movie he's on the list with Armageddon, but he's so much fun as the really, really creepy villain that he plays. Pinball, Diamond Dog. This film is also endlessly quotable. The whole first 10 minutes, I can literally recite word for word as we see Cameron Poe, amazing name, go through his time in prison and share coconut cakes with Baby O. There's just nothing that I can fault about this film. It's, as I say, it's silly fun, but the biggest thing that it does well is that it knows that. Like, I have a massive soft spot for 90s action movies, and Con Air is the reason for that. There isn't a film that I can quote as much as Con Air. Put the bunny back in the box. I mean, just such a simple line of dialogue. It's just iconic now. And it's not the only one. There's so many more in there. The script is so much fun. And it is still, to this day, the most enjoyment I've ever got from a couple of hours in a film. It is. For that reason, it's my number one. I'll never get tired of it. I'll never want to stop watching it. I watch it at least once a year, sometimes even twice if I'm going to go a little bit crazy. If you've never seen Con Air, please do. It sums up 90s action absolutely perfectly, and it reminds everybody that Nick Cage used to do incredible movies. He used to be a very good actor, did some real fun stuff, and didn't just do straight to DVD films like he's doing now. He was awesome. Come back to doing stuff like this, Nick Cage, please. So they're my top 10 favourite movies. As I say, I don't think all of those are technically the best. Like, if I was watching quite a lot of these now, I wouldn't give them a 10 out of 10, but it wouldn't affect my enjoyment of them. But as I say, let me know yours. Let me know what your personal most rewatched favourite movies are in the comments, and let's discuss them. Hit like, hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Review of The Meg coming in the next couple of days. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Julians. I'm often talking film or TV stuff on there. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.